Good morning, everyone. It's time to go on the record for the future of Boston. Marty Walsh, Tito Jackson, the mayor and the challenger, their visions for the city. Their critical and contentious issues, from Boston's housing crunch to protecting the city from violence. Their final pitch to you, the voter, and our questions about their plans and their positions. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special hour-long edition of On the Record this Sunday. I'm Ed Harding, along with our political reporter, Janet Wu. Thanks for joining us. And our first guest this morning is Boston City Councilor and mayoral candidate Tito Jackson. Councilor Jackson has served on the committee since 2011, chairs the council's committee on education and special committee on the status of Black and Latino men and boys. He's also spent more than 10 years in the healthcare and technology sectors. He would love to be your mayor. We appreciate you being with us this morning, sir.
Thank you for making my pitch.
Thank you for being here, especially on a Sunday. Let's start with an issue that I think is on the minds of many Americans this weekend. In light of the latest terrorism attacks in New York City, how confident are you that Boston's prepared to prevent similar incidents? And I want you to give us 3 specific things that we're not doing now that you think need to be done.
Yeah, so I would say I'm very confident in the skills and intelligence of the Boston Police Department, but I think we have a critical issue in Boston relative to overworking our police officers. One of the things that I would do is we have $60 million overtime budget. Which is unacceptable. There are officers who are working 85 to 90 hours. I would expand the number of police officers. I come from a private sector background, and so running overtime like that is unacceptable. It also means that we're overworking our officers. So what I would do is actually lower the total amount that we're spending in the police department by adding more police officers. We also have several hundred police officers, over 600 officers, who are able to retire right now today, which puts us in a distinct issue relative to the future of the department. So That's one. I would actually add detectives that have a shift from 11 to 7. Our detectives go off at 12 a.m. So when shootings occur, they are actually on call, and the Boston Police Department only has a 4% solve rate or arrest rate for non-fatal shootings in the city of Boston. That is absolutely unacceptable, and we need to step up in that space.
I'm sorry, go ahead with your third.
And I guess the third piece, and this is for crime as a whole, I would actually have safe street teams across the board to ensure that and these are bike teams that are in hotspot areas, and I have been the biggest proponent on the council of body cams. So there has to be that issue of trust and accountability that works with the city of Boston. Boston police have been sued for $38 million in the past 7 years, and I would partner that with a civilian review board. So we continue to build that trust.
And you would hope that those safe teams would be police officers on bicycles, as you say, or on foot, maybe.
The bicycle officers in hotspots, the same officers in those areas doing community policing, knowing that Janet hangs out in this area every single day, and if someone new is there, then they are able to have their connection with that neighborhood and community.
I don't want to get into too much detail, but for example, you say that you would like to get rid of the $60 million overtime budget and add more police officers full time. How many officers do you think you could add that would cost less than $60 million, or actually bring the entire police department budget down below where it is now?
So this is, if you, in the private sector, what you would do, if this was any store, and again, I worked for Johnson & Johnson, I worked for Eli Lilly, I worked at a startup called Silverlink Communications. No one would allow you to have nearly 20% of your budget run in that way. What you would do is you would actually hire people who would be on regular time, not on overtime budgets.
I understand that. But tell me, how many more people do you think you could hire in the police department on regular salary to reduce or get rid of, completely eliminate that $60 million?
So we would work out the numbers, and we know that there are averages in terms of the salaries. This is actually a simple math problem that is easily worked out. I'm not going to give you a specific number, but we know increasing the number of officers right now will decrease the amount of overtime. But also, this is also about making sure that our officers are well taken care of. It's a stressful job, and it's one thing to do overtime overtime for other types of jobs, but this is a very specialized job, and I think we need to make sure that we're taking care of the people who actually take care of us.
All right, next item. General Electric is on the city's horizon. You have criticized Mayor Walsh's GE tax break, even though GE will end up paying a sizable tax bill. You've criticized the tax break because?
Because what we're doing is we're stealing from the future of the city of Boston. As this tax incentive went in, Mayor Walsh cut $11 million out of the Boston public schools. 49 public schools were cut. We're bringing technology companies, and when we look at Amazon or GE, and mind you, I was on.
That was the follow-up was Amazon's.
Well, what I'm saying is, so these are tech companies that we're not, in my administration, we would have a kindergarten through 12th grade pathway for computer science. Every young person would learn computer science because what we know is there's 1.4 million open jobs in computing by 2020, and there's only 400,000 people in the United States who are studying computing.
But isn't the balance of what GE, the break that GE might get, isn't it overset? Isn't it to the advantage of the city to be overset by the size of the tax bill?
Let's call Connecticut and ask them what GE did. Let's also call Pittsfield. They owe Pittsfield for the Housatonic River over $600 million. There's an opportunity cost when you actually give money to private companies. In addition, Mayor Walsh added $15 million in the operating budget to a bridge for GE, and he was also going to give them a helicopter pad. The helicopter pad was proposed.
That bridge was already on the books before GE even came and made an offer.
But it happened,
or in a decision on GE.
It happened in the operating budget. So understand, well, and this is getting a little technical, in the operating budget, this should have happened in the capital budget. Those dollars could have gone to the Boston Public Schools to deal with the 3,500 young people who walked out saying that the mayor actually did not fund their public schools. And we shouldn't have had a proposal for a helicopter pad.
He will say, however, that he's added money to the schools, but we'll get into that later.
Yes, we will.
And but more importantly, the schools that did get cuts were schools where there were fewer students, and the money follows the students. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Follow the students.
But I want to ask you about it. So you criticized the mayor's GE tax break, but another tax break deal you did approve for Fenway Center development will bring in a few new dollars to the city. So what's the difference between the two?
The Fenway Center development, is this was it a TIF or what actual business are we talking about?
It was a community center.
It was a community area in Fenway, which you approved.
Yeah.
And you also, it basically would bring them, I think it was, give them a $4 million tax break over 6 years, but they would be only putting back into the city coffers $1.2 million versus the GE offer, which is they get a $25 million break over 20 years, but they end up paying $67 million into the state coffers.
We do these on a case-by-case basis, but the real issue is GE, which is, you're talking about a zone versus an individual company. You're talking about a company that is about to cut $2 billion out of their budget. Mayor Walsh is not acknowledging the fact that GE is going to cut jobs. They're not at this point, and they're delaying the building that they were going to do. So the jobs that the city of Boston was.
So you don't think GE is going to come up with 50,000 new jobs over the next 10 years as they are promising?
Well, let me say this. GE has already delayed the construction jobs that they have put forward. What I am saying is this. What we know is the Kauffman Foundation tells us that the companies that we should be investing in are small, local businesses and startups. Startups are actually the vehicle that are organic to the city of Boston. Wayfair didn't ask the city of Boston for money. When I worked for Governor Patrick recruiting companies and IT companies. I helped bring Google here. I helped bring Microsoft here. They didn't get any additional funds. They are here because of smart people. They are here because of the great city that we have. And so we should be selling Boston based on qualitative measures rather than quantitative measures in terms of corporate giveaways. By the way, these corporate giveaways are not progressive. And you can't say you're a progressive Democrat if you're stroking checks to GE.
I would love to continue on this subject because I'm sure we could do an entire hour on it, but let's move on to another area. You've been critical of the mayor's record on affordable housing. So what's your solution?
What's my solution? One, we're going to dismantle the failed Boston Planning and Development Agency, which is really the old BRA. Mayor Walsh cost us $600,000 to just change the name. So we need to note that. So one, the agency is not accountable to anyone other than the mayor. It's not transparent, and the money that it collects, over $50 million, goes into essentially a slush fund that is not for the people of the city of Boston. I will create a human-centered, human-focused planning department that actually is transparent, separate from the development side on the actual housing creation. In my administration right now, you're required 13% affordable if you build over 10 units. In a Jackson administration, that will turn to 25% affordable.
Do you think you can find, do you believe you can find developers that are willing to put that much money in and still get a healthy profit and be willing to build in Boston?
Look at the Boston market right now. It is on fire. It is one of the best in the world relative to real estate investment. In addition, Cambridge just raised theirs to over 20% in a requirement. In addition, we have city land, so that's private land. In city land, we will require in a Jackson administration a third low income for housing, a third middle income, and a third market rate. We can require that. Mayor Walsh just approved a 728 unit building in my district that only has 13% affordable. He's not walking the walk. And in addition,
he would argue that 40% overall citywide in his administration.
Well, so you know what?
Affordable.
Let's look at the NAACP study. And the NAACP noted that 50% of people in Boston make $35,000 or less. And so we need to be thinking about not the luxury housing. So this is what happens with Mayor Walsh. He says that he's building units. A unit, and thousands of units, a unit means nothing if I can't afford that unit. My administration will look at real affordable housing.
We can come back to this level of conversation. Obviously, it's a deep vein that runs deep. We're going to take a break right now, and we're back with Tito Jackson in just a minute. And we're going to talk about Mayor Marty Walsh and the issues that we come back, so don't go away.
Thank you.